My husband said, if my late wife walked through that door right now, I'd pick up right where we left off, and I've never felt more like a second choice. My 34F husband, 37M, was married once before me. She was his high school sweetheart. They started dating their junior year, survived long distance during college, and got married when they were both 23 very shortly after graduating college. She passed away unexpectedly at age 26 from an aneurysm, and it obviously devastated him, especially because they were extremely young. They never had children. He contemplated ever remarrying because he was so heartbroken, but we ended up meeting about 4 years after that. We got married when I was 31 and he was 34 and have 2 children. Last night, we were at a friend potluck gathering. Everything was going well until one of our friends brought up a new topic that had to do with relationships. She is newly divorced, so it was about her divorce. Others were chiming in with past relationships from high school, college, etc. I had said I never thought I would get married because my luck with men has always been terrible until I met my husband, and I said I felt very lucky to have met him. After a little while longer, my husband brings up his deceased wife. Everyone knows he was married before me and that she passed away. He was talking about her and then drops a bomb and goes, if she walked through that front door right now, I'd pick up where we left off. If I am being honest, it felt like someone put my heart into a blender and punched me in the gut as hard as they could. Everyone in the room could sense the awkwardness that followed. To avoid making a scene, I just laughed it off, even though I think it was still obvious that it hurt me. I just felt that if you still felt that way, then why are we married? I've never asked him to get over his wife. I have never had a deceased spouse or even a deceased partner, so I am unsure how that feels. But I would never say that in front of my new spouse. After the gathering, we left and I did not speak to him the entire car ride home or barely the entire night. I did tell him that what he said hurt my feelings deeply and that we could talk in the morning once I've calmed down, because I didn't want to say something mean to him. I ended up sleeping on the couch because he would not leave me alone. It's now the next morning and I barely slept. He is still sleeping. I'm not really sure what to say or what he will say. Update, next day, this may be a long one. I also tried to reply to as many comments as I could, but they were flooding in and I got a bit overwhelmed. Also, alcohol was not involved in the sense that he wasn't drunk. My husband is 6 feet 3 inches and almost 250 pounds. He had eaten quite a bit and had 1 beer. He was practically sober. Anyway, we talked. I asked him to let me go first and to not interrupt. He doesn't usually interrupt anyway. This isn't verbatim. Just a rough sketch of how things went. I also included points some of you made. Without mentioning I posted about this, of course. I just want to say that I do not hate you for what you said. I understand where you were coming from. She died and it was something neither of you saw coming. I could never ask you to get over her or to forget her because I know how much you loved her. She was your first love. I do understand that if she hadn't passed, we likely would not be together and you two likely would be. I have always understood this. But to say what you said hurt my feelings and embarrassed me. And even though her coming back from the dead is impossible, if it were, you would leave me and the children? It was probably one of the worst things anyone has ever said to me. It is clear your feelings about her are still raw and it still hurts, and I want you to get counseling, and I want couples counseling very, very soon. He then apologized profusely, teared up and said how he did not mean to hurt me and embarrass me in front of our friends. He basically said that he thought about it before he went to sleep and came to the realization that he should have kept it to himself. I can't be angry for what he thinks. He loved her and she died. His feelings are also valid here. Also said that he would never leave me and the children, and that what he said was just a poorly thought out and poorly worded statement. That he was not thinking clearly, and when he said it, he immediately felt that maybe it came out wrong. I asked him how he would feel if I said that to him. He says, yeah. It's bad. I know. I shouldn't have said it. I wouldn't be happy. I know you aren't happy. I should have apologized in front of everyone as soon as I said it, or not have said it at all. I then asked him to think of the children and said it's like you saying, hey, children's names, if my dead wife walked through the door, I'd pack my bags and never speak to you guys again, and then it really got uncomfy. After some silence, I had no idea what to say after that. He asked me if I wanted to divorce. So I asked him why he would think I would want a divorce, just to see what he would say. He says he doesn't know. I didn't answer his question and said we needed to look into counseling. That he needed to get counseling for himself and that we would go to couples counseling. And if the answer is no, I am not interested in moving forward. This isn't 100% about the comment anymore. I need to know if he is willing to make the necessary changes and put in the work to fix what he messed up. Because if he were to dismiss my feelings or not want counseling, it means he doesn't think this was that serious and that he may not take me seriously. I also said this to him. Some of the comments also told me to take the kids elsewhere. I agreed with this because it would be difficult to get through this while also parenting. I've got a very young daughter and a son that is a toddler. They are currently with my parents for the weekend and I'll be getting them Sunday night, so this gives us time to really work. He suggested he sleep on the couch instead of me. I have nowhere else to go. I haven't told my parents because I really would like to keep this between me and him as much as possible. Family and friends jump to judge too fast and sometimes offer extreme and harmful advice, and it's also embarrassing. Luckily we both have very good insurance that will help with counseling. I told him that it seems like whatever counseling he got after her death was not enough and that he was not consistent with it like he should have been. With trauma like that, I personally would have been in counseling for years before I even considered remarrying. He agreed. He was only in it for about a year and then stopped once he moved away from his hometown. Never got back into it. He also agreed to the individual and couples counseling. Kept apologizing. Kept telling me he loved me all day. It was also so difficult to be around him because he kept looking at me. I couldn't think. It was like he would try to say something and then he would just stare and not say anything. With the kids gone, there's nothing to really do except talk, so we talked again right before dinner time. He asked me if I wanted him to cook or buy something. I still was not hungry to be honest. So I just told him he could pick something up for himself and that I wasn't hungry, and that prompted the second discussion. I realized he must feel very bad because he noticed I hadn't really eaten much all day. Kept asking me to eat. I wasn't sulking too bad or anything. Just doing my usual tasks, but not speaking or eating as much, and because we're home together all day, he noticed this. He asked me one more time to please eat dinner with him, so I agreed. During dinner, he told me that he looked for counselors himself and wanted me to see if I thought they were okay enough and that he would keep looking. Last stretch. After all of that, I told him that we can't really predict anything until we've met with therapists. I don't want him to keep saying sorry. I want work and change. And then maybe we can move forward, but this is the first step. I don't want to just leave him. I'm also not saying divorce is off of the table. I think he is still hurting from her death and his judgment is very, very clouded. If he didn't love me, I doubt he would have apologized so many times and looked for counselors on his own. A man that doesn't love me probably would have made me look or rejected going altogether. Many people were suggesting this. I do not think he doesn't love me. Thought of this myself. Cried about it. Thought of my children. Cried more. I'm not staying for the kids. I'm staying because I want to at least try to fix. If it cannot be fixed, then at least I tried. We were also very close. Some people were asking how close we were prior to marriage, I guess as a way to gauge the difference between the relationship and our relationship. Maybe to see if he settled? He was always very romantic, caring, and sweet to me. We've never yelled at each other. When we first started dating, he would plan dates, surprise me, brag about me to his friends. So that's why I am very confused on why he would blurt that. Unless it was just very poor brain and mouth coordination. I also told him that I may get a counselor for myself. I don't think I need one. Someone suggested this, but I think he needs it more than I do. And because insurance companies are getting crappier by the year, 3 counseling bills may be pushing it? I don't know. If I do get one, it's because I don't want to potentially resent him or doubt myself. Some people were making attempts to make me doubt myself. Some people in the comments were very nasty to me. I appreciate Reddit hiding comments with many downvotes as they may be mean, but I couldn't help but click. Some of you are very mean and very nasty individuals, and I hope you find happiness one day. There could be another update in the future. Not opposed to making one. Thank you all for your kind words and support. I've also responded to everyone that texted me, which was everyone there at the potluck that has my number. 3 people, there were 9 people there not including us. They've all basically said the same thing. They can't believe he said that, they feel bad for me, asking if everything is okay, what he said was not okay, etc. He showed me some of the texts with him and his friends, and some made me cry with how kind they were being towards me. Basically telling him he wasn't necessarily wrong for thinking that, but wrong for saying it. I told him I loved him as well. And I have never not loved him even for a second. And that I wasn't angry with him and didn't want him to, I guess, suffer for what he said. But I was just hurt and needed him to know that it did hurt me and him to respond how he saw fit, and we'd go from there. That is all for now. I could possibly answer more questions here? If you have any. I try to answer some of the more frequently asked ones that I saw. Again, sorry for this being so lengthy. Have a nice weekend everyone, and thank you again. I stayed at my friend's house, and his crazy vegan wife made ridiculous rules, went through my suitcase and crossed so many boundaries that I finally called her out, and now they're mad I ended the friendship. November of last year I, female, went to visit a friend, we'll call him Kevin, and stayed at his and his wife's house. Early last year, Kevin and his wife, we'll call her Karen, moved a couple states away. For context, we are all over the age of 35 and Kevin and I were part of a friend group from an old job. Another couple from the friend group went on this trip as well, but they were also visiting family and stayed with them. Prior to the move, our friend group didn't really have much interaction with Karen as she didn't really come spend time with us. She was always invited, just rarely joined. They never hosted us at their old house. They are vegan. I am not. Well, Kevin is not full-fledged vegan, as he eats fish. However, his wife does the grocery shopping, so everything outside of fish is vegan, and he eats/drinks it. He buys his own fish and has a mini kitchen to prep his own meals away from hers. For even more context, Karen is not a vegan for health reasons. She is the type that brings up their vegan status with every conversation, no matter how irrelevant it is to the topic, makes fun of people that eat meat or use things made with animal byproducts, accuses people of murder, etc. Except she leaves Kevin alone. She calls any food that is not vegan trash and garbage. Example, when we would hang out before they moved and she was there, she would always ask how people could eat such garbage anytime any of us would have meat. It was annoying, but I never got confrontational with her about it. The day before I visited them, Karen sent a short list of rules that I had to follow regarding food. One of those rules was that I couldn't store any non-vegan food items in either kitchen. I did ask if I could bring milk, and she agreed, but I had to keep it in the fish fridge. All of the food I ate at their house tasted off, even the breakfast waffles and then the tuna casserole that Kevin made for the two of us Saturday afternoon for lunch. It's not like it tasted spoiled, it was just off. Weird. A little gross. I've never eaten vegan, so I figured it was just that, food made with vegan ingredients. I couldn't really eat anything after a few bites. I had, fortunately, packed a few protein, non-vegan, snacks that I kept in my room, inside a zippered canvas bag, at the bottom of my suitcase. I was not specifically prohibited from bringing snacks to keep in my room. I kept my trash and disposed of it after I left. I did eat some street food from the market. Me, Kevin, and our friends went to Saturday after lunch, and I ate like a horse at the restaurant we went to that Saturday night, and I am not ashamed. My husband and I are supposed to be going to visit them this weekend, and Karen called me a couple of hours ago. She wanted to tell me that I wouldn't be allowed to bring any milk this time around. She also said that my husband and I also couldn't bring any snacks and that I should have asked last time. Apparently, she had gone through my suitcase when Kevin and I and our friends were out at the market and found my snacks. In addition to that, she also told me that she replaced my milk with almond milk and thought that was just hilarious. I drank some milk Friday night before bed and one glass on Saturday morning. Then, Kevin told me he used it to make our waffles and wanted to save the rest for the casserole at lunch. What actually happened was that after I poured my glass Saturday morning before breakfast, Karen dumped the rest of it out and replaced it with almond milk. Kevin knew it but didn't tell me. I never went to look for it because he said he wanted to save it. The waffles and casserole were made with almond milk. I was so mad that I knew I wouldn't be able to say anything nice. I told her I had another call coming in and hung up. After I calmed down, I called her back to ask why she went through my suitcase and why she dumped my milk. She told me that it was her house and she had a right to know, so that's why she was allowed to go through my things. She said she dumped my milk because nobody can tell the difference between cow's milk and almond milk and that I wouldn't have known if she hadn't told me. I called her a controlling, self-centered freak, told her that Kevin has a stash of real cheese hidden in the fish fridge that he sneaks into his food, and hung up on her. Then I called Kevin. He sided with her and told me that I pushed the line when I asked to bring milk and that it was incredibly rude to order meat when we went to dinner. We argued, and I told him that it seems our lives are going in different directions and that we don't need to be friends anymore. I know I probably should have asked if it was okay to have non-vegan snacks in my room, or I could have kept them in my car. I also shouldn't have called her names. I was a guest at their house and Kevin has me half convinced that as a guest, I should have respected Karen's veganism and I had any non-vegan food at all. My husband thinks they're completely in the wrong and that since their lifestyle is not one the majority of the population follows, they should have made exceptions since Kevin gets a fish exception. He's also as pissed as I am that she went through my stuff, and he also pointed out that if I was allergic to almonds, I could have gotten very ill. He says that I'm better off and thinks ending the friendship was reasonable. He and Kevin got along, but just like Karen, my husband is a spouse of someone in the friend group so they weren't really close. A few minutes ago I got the "hey can we talk" text, and honestly, I don't know if I'm going to respond. I'm just kind of done with it. Edit, I'm so sorry that I can't respond to all of your comments. Just know that I am reading them. I'm calling Kevin on my lunch break today and will post an update after since so many people have asked for one. Update, next day. This is a long update, but it's the last one. First, I wanted to clarify that the bag Karen found in my suitcase had emergency cash and a credit card in it as well as snacks. The reason it was hidden in my suitcase was to keep it safe, not to hide food. I wasn't sneaking it in, important later, but I did have protein bars in there just in case I took issue with their food. Naughty me. I responded to Kevin yesterday and told him I needed some time to think and I'd get back to him today. I took some of your advice and reached out to our friend group last night. After the group chat and also talking just with the friends that were down that weekend, I learned some things. Long story short, out of our core group of 6, I'm the only one that kept up with Kevin. The only reason those 2 friends accepted Kevin's invitation to go down that weekend was because I was going. Visiting family was a bonus. After I took the rest of the night to think about and sleep on it, I realized that all of you were right about Kevin's complicity regarding the switching of the milk. I didn't pay as much attention as I should have because I was so focused on the fact that Karen switched the milk to begin with. I also realized he had never actually said anything in response to my telling him that Karen confessed to going through my stuff when I called him yesterday. He had changed the subject instead, talking about how it was rude to ask to bring milk. Anyway, I called Kevin on my lunch break today and ran down the list of issues: Karen going through my suitcase, him not telling me about the milk switch, Karen switching the milk to begin with after telling me I could bring it, and how what I eat is none of their business as long as I'm not contaminating their food. Basically, he told me the only thing he would apologize for was saying that it was rude to order non-vegan food at the restaurant. He said that since they had plenty of food in the house for me to eat, he didn't have to apologize for anything else. Apparently Karen had told him not to tell me about the milk switch because she was trying to prove that I couldn't tell the difference between vegan and non-vegan food, essentially the same thing she said to me yesterday. I told him that since I didn't eat any of it except a few bites, clearly I could tell the difference. He also said that he was eventually going to tell me about it but forgot. I said that she could have just said no when I asked to bring milk instead of being a swampy butthole about it. He said that although he didn't agree with Karen going through my things, I wasn't owed an apology because I broke the rules by sneaking meat into their house. There was a meat stick in that canvas bag. I told him that I had only been told I couldn't have non-vegan food in both kitchens and that it was left over from my drive to their house. As long as I didn't switch it with their food like a certain someone, I hadn't done anything wrong. The last thing he told me was that the other reason I wasn't getting an apology from him was because after I told Karen about his cheese stash yesterday afternoon, she unplugged his fish fridge. He didn't get home from work until late, and according to his Google search, all the refrigerated fish had to be thrown away. This is apparently my fault. He said that we were even now. He didn't tell me about the milk switch, and I snitched about his cheese. I tried explaining that they weren't the same thing and that I wasn't responsible for what she did, but he didn't care and said he knew I wasn't allergic to nuts. I don't remember ever discussing that with him, but whatever. I asked if he truly believed that I didn't deserve any apologies from either of them, and he said yes. I told him that if he couldn't see what they did wrong and apologize, I couldn't help him and to give me a call when he got his balls back from his wife. He hung up on me. Yesterday, I thought I owed him an apology because I was wrong. I thought if I gave him one, we could maintain a friendship. Today I think that the problem was that I was holding on to something that didn't exist anymore. Until you guys reality checked me, I ignored a lot of things and gaslit myself. So thank you everybody for the smack to the back of the head. Everybody should have people like you in their lives. Thanks for reading.